Going into round 13, Gukesh was tied with Ian Nepomniachtchi on 7.5 points. And with one round left after round 13, he was facing Alireza Firouzja, sort of an underdog in the whole tournament from the way he played. And this was a very crucial game for Gukesh. He starts with e4, e5, knight out, and we have the Ruy Lopez. Knight f6, Berlin chosen by Firouzja, and d3, Andy Berlin by Gukesh. Bishop c5 and castles. Knight d4 was chosen by Alireza. Takes, and here Gukesh plays knight d2. C3 is also possible. I mean, after bishop b6, probably knight will anyway come to d2, and black will get c6 and d5 or d6. So same thing happens: knight d2, c6, bishop back, and d6. Now Gukesh goes c3, bishop back, and he moves his bishop so that d5 doesn't come with tempo. He's keeping d4 in check. He's going to prepare it and then play it. Now a5, knight c4. Bishop goes back, knight e3, heading to the nice fi square. If there is support of a queen, if bishop can take it, then it's not so nice. But if queen can take back, then it's a good trade. Castles, queen f3, preparing knight f5, d5 by Alireza. Bishop c2, g6, stopping knight f5 permanently, and preparing knight h5, knight f4. Gukesh plays rook e1, Firouzja plays bishop e6, takes, and h3. So we have a middle game where white has potential, but black is controlling more of the center. There are some weaknesses around the king, the dark squared weaknesses, but this bishop is pretty strong on the long diagonal. So black is slightly better here because of the center control and better pieces. Now Alireza plays rook e8. Gukesh moves the bishop to attack the rook. Pawn e4. Takes, and queen retreats. And now rook also moves out of danger. And knight f1, opening up the bishop and preparing knight g3 to put pressure on the e4 pawn. Or even knight h2, knight g4. If knight takes, pawn takes back. He goes queen c7, does Alireza. Bishop b3, a4, takes, and now bishop e3, getting rid of this nice piece of black. So Alireza plays a3. So this is where the game gets a little interesting. And this is where the structure of the pawns change. Gukesh plays c4, gaining a little space on the queen side, asking black to take. Taking would be fine. Queen takes, and if queen takes c4, there is a pawn hanging on b7. So knight h5 by Alireza, and now g3, stopping knight f4. Bishop c5, b3. Gukesh really wants to win this game because he's leading along with Nepo, but in the last round, he is going to face, I believe, Fabiano in the last round. Let's just check what's the pairing for the last round. Gukesh facing Hikaru. So that's going to be with the black pieces. So he really needs to win this game. So he creates some imbalance by playing b3. Later in the endgame, this pawn become very nice. If something can sacrifice on b3, this is a very nice pass pawn, close to promotion. But Gukesh is taking that risk. And here, Alireza's position becomes better. f5, very nice move. He is on the attack. So there is a queen still on the board, and there are weaknesses around the king. And f4 will come with a nice tempo on the bishop. So this is looking scary for Gukesh. This is one of the situations where you want to win, but you are on the back foot. So here Gukesh takes the bishop, takes back, and now rook d1. Here Alireza plays rook f8. This was a slight miss by Alireza. He had the direct f4. A more confident, more in form Alireza would have instantly played f4. The point being, he was scared of queen g4, I believe. But queen g4, rook f6, and white gets a nice rook on the second rank. So you can go. So if you take, of course, it's great for black. Black would be almost winning. You don't want that. And g4 is also not a problem because you've got these nice pawns, and they can knight will go back, and the pawns will become a big force to reckon with. But the line that he probably was not thinking, I'm not convinced about is queen g4. But then rook f6, and the rook gets in, and oh, sorry, rook cannot get in. There's a threat here. So this was actually a nice position for Alireza. He had to go for this. He had to go for f4. Queen g4, rook f6, and now you'll have to defend the king side a bit. So rook d2 or rook e2. so that he takes and this is defended. Because when he takes, this will be a big threat. And you can't take, so you'll have to do this. And this is only black can win this, right? I mean, black's pawns look menacing, and white's pieces are not in a great position, especially this knight. So this f4 move was possible for Alireza, but he goes for rook f8, preparing f4 without sacking it. Now rook d5, queen e7, and here Gukesh plays a very important move. He plays f4, stopping f4 completely from black, giving black a pass pawn, but that pass pawn is blockaded completely for now. Knight f6, rook d2, saving the rook, g5. And here Alireza lost the thread of the position a little bit. The best move was h5, h4, that plan. I mean, he could also like keep the position intact, but he goes for more threats. g5, the problem is after knight e3, this whole structure is intact and it's not possible for black to make any breakthrough. g4, h4, right? And if you take, just take back. The king will move and g5 is for both. So here takes, queen f7, king h2, and now knight h5, attacking the pawn. You have some options here. There is knight d5, and there's queen f2, and there's rook f1. So if you think about Gukesh's position now, he really wants to double the rooks and ender, or play on the g file, but he's not able to do it yet because rook g1 is always met by rook g6, and rook d1 the pawn is hanging. He has to first stop this threat. And playing knight d5 unleashes this pawn. It's not as good as it looks like because you're defending the pawn, but now you cannot play on the d file. You're blocking the d file. And g file, there's no play anyway. So this is better for white, but not the best option. Gukesh plays queen f2, the better move. And now after rook g6, he activates his rook. Pressure on the f5 pawn. Knight g7. Another option would have been queen c7 to not allow this to happen so easily because after takes, take the f4 pawn hangs. So he chooses knight g7 and now rook e d1, rook h6. So Firouzja has to look for counterplay. He is not letting white get his pieces in that easily because he's always reminding Gukesh of things on the king side. Now there is some worries about queen h5. If queen h5 happens, there'll be some infiltration. So Gukesh plays rook g1 and now rook g6. If queen h5, he would have played rook g3. So rook g6, he goes back. Alireza repeats as well. Now they are on move 39. I mean, they have reached 40 by now. So by repeating, Gukesh has made move 40 and now he has got 30 minutes to think the position through. He takes almost half of his time. He goes for a 20-minute, almost 20-minute think and goes rook g1, repeating. And now after rook g6, he goes queen h4. A very important and big decision. After takes, king h8, the king goes to f2, a more active square for the king. This is very well played by Gukesh. Now he has got a comfortable edge because his pieces are all active, even the king. The pass pawn is not really a problem. The a pawn is also not really a problem. Black's pieces are too passive. He goes rook g8. He played very fast, did Firouzja, just less than a minute. And that's a bad move because all the pieces are now tied down. Here, Gukesh had this move queen h6, stopping any knight moves and kind of preparing rook d6. And also, queen trades can happen on f6 after that. So, queen h6 would have been a nice choice. The main point of queen h6 is after the knight moves, the queen can't come to g7 with a threat of infiltration. So, that is the main point, and it makes the queen active. Gukesh goes for a similar idea, queen g5. But here, Alireza had to play knight e6. And after takes, queen g7. This was his counterplay. But Alireza again played very fast, and that was a big blunder. Didn't even take 1 minute for this move. With 21 minutes on the clock, Firouzja just blitzes out queen g6, and that's a huge blunder because the endgame is gone. Takes, the rook comes to d6. One mistake white could do here is rook a5. I would probably play a move like this if it was rapid. So rook a5 goes after the a pawn, you'll win the a pawn, but black gets counterplayed. Knight h5, and if you defend it now, g5. And after takes, the rook becomes active. The pass pawns become active. Rook takes f4 and the pawns are rolling. So this is scary for white. So he had to not do that. He played rook d6, keeping the d file, keeping the rook active, and that pawn is gone. G6 pawn is gone. If you go king h7, knight will anyway infiltrate, threatening knight f6. So Alireza activates his rook e8, now takes and knight e6. Kind of cutting away this rook from this side from attacking the A and B pawns. Knight d5, knight d4. Sort of threatening this, but the rook can still come back. After pawn takes pawn push, there is rook g1. So he could have started with king h7 here. Because if the rook moves, then knight d4 comes with a huge threat. Takes and e2. The rook is no longer on the g file then. But he goes for knight d4, the rook went to b6, stopping any ideas of rook knight takes pawn completely. Here, Alireza plays knight c2, and now if Gukesh just takes on b7, and after rook e6, he plays rook e7, rook h6, he starts the running of the pawns, giving up the h pawn, but the pawn is too fast. Knight stops it for now, king g2, rook check, king moves, rook back, and now b4. The pawns are coming. Rook takes pawn, and now king g2. Rook moves. He still can't push the pawn, but he still can't push b pawn as well. But he's got the time. Gukesh realizes he's got the time to play b5, then c6, and he'll still win. Because black has no counterplay. He can't push e3. So he brings the king in, does Alireza. Now b5, king moves, b6. And now rook check, king moves, rook moves back, and rook c7. Preparing the path for the pawn, rook check, king g3, and here Alireza had enough. And Gukesh wins a very crucial game in the round. And now going into the final round, we have Gukesh leading the candidates. Nepomniachtchi, Hikaru, and Fabi are tied on 8. Fabi actually won yesterday against Pragnananda, and he's tied with Hikaru and Nepo on 8 points. And what makes this very interesting and exciting is in the 14th round, the final round, Gukesh is going to face Nakamura. So, and Nepo is going to face Fabiano. The four leaders, the main leader and the three behind him, are going to play each other. So, if you look at this pairing, Gukesh and Nakamura have their destiny in their hands. Gukesh just needs a draw to take this to at least tie breaks. He can also win with a draw probably. If this game becomes a draw, then he would just need a draw on the board one against Hikaru to win the candidates. If one of these guys win, then Gukesh will need a draw to at least reach tiebreak. So he's in a safe position. And if Gukesh wins, he wins the candidates. If Hikaru wins, Hikaru will force the candidates into tiebreaks with whoever wins the second board, Nepo and Fabi. If this is a draw and Hikaru wins on first board against Gukesh, Hikaru wins the candidates. So Hikaru needs to win to have a chance to go to the tiebreak or win the candidates. But these guys, even if one of them wins, they still can't be first if Gukesh wins. If Gukesh draws and one of these guys win, then we'll have a two-way tiebreak and we have a two-player tiebreak. So those are the situations right now. So Gukesh with the great chance to go to the World Championship to play against Ding Liren. Now even second place can matter. Like last year, Magnus actually did not play the World Championship. Same way, Ding has not been playing much chess. So if he withdraws, then the second place of candidates will also have a chance of playing the World Championship. So second place can matter, but right now in their minds, it's just first place. Gukesh would want a draw at least to reach the tiebreaks or to win. So a great final day coming up with two games against each other of the leaders.